Once again, hello out there world. It's your boy, Dwayne Langham. As always, for the YOLO Av, I am your host, author, and narrator for this discussion. Welcome to the Av. This week, we're going to chop it up about a concept I call giving your money a job. Wait, what? You can do that? Hold on, wait, so that makes me like an employer or something? How do I do that? Do I need 1099? Break it down for me. All right, let's get down to some basics about what I mean. There are two money mindsets that are prevalent in the world today: prosperity conscious and poverty conscious. The latter of the two is the most common amongst the average person, or someone without wealth. Now, this may not be their fault. Most of us are raised hearing and subconsciously instilling thoughts such as, money doesn't grow on trees, it's hard to come by, it takes hard work, nobody really has any, and I'm sure there's a laundry list going on. What's worse is once you internalize these type of beliefs, they actually transition into a coping mechanism. What this does is balances your perception of a lack of money in order to help make you feel better about it. Weird, right? It's very subtle, but just the acceptance that because you and everyone you know may not have a lot of money, and what little you do have, you're working extremely hard to get. Anyone who does have it has either broken the law, broken some moral code, committing sins, done other people wrong, took away from the world's supply and infinite resources, or they've lucked into it in some quantum leap effect. And of course, that last option, you can't calculate luck. It's not even worth holding out for or expecting it to come your way. That is, unless you know how powerful your thoughts are. All these factors fuel up into anger and jealousy, often referred to as hating. Now, to me, hating is actually a form of admiration for someone who's attained what you want or desire, and also at the same time, a feeling of unworthiness or worthlessness, feeling insecure that you even have the opportunity, just a complete lack of confidence that you can attain it yourself, which leads to, like I said, coping, where all you can do is hate. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. For those out there of you, and at one point I, who are unaware of your poverty consciousness, these ideas are stifling, they're counterproductive, and they're plaguing your life. And they'll continue to do so as long as you choose to remain ignorant to the facts. Because of course, what you believe about your environment is going to affect your thoughts, what you say, how you act, your behavior, your expectations in life. Best case scenario, everything seems so dismal that the average person is just going to fall in line, pick a lane in the rat race, and play their part. Going out and getting an education, yes, but educating themselves in things that they have no interest in whatsoever, no passion. What's worse is this is simply for an unguaranteed payout at the end, which is becoming more and more prevalent to not even be worth it. And back to those beliefs that are instilled, because the person believes that it has to be hard to get the initial payout, they'll completely ignore the facts of the consequences of following the path. All those undesired results, they'll take their chances, simply because it's reinstilled in the belief system that it takes hard work to get the payout, commonly telling themselves, if it wasn't hard, everyone would be doing it, or it's illegal. Drugs. I mean, really, just think about it. How much sense does it make that the path to more money is a path that requires money you don't have, otherwise known as debt? And at the end, you get a great piece of paper that doesn't make any money. We're not going to even touch the subject that once you have that paper, you may be considered overqualified in a down economy when positions are available and not even have the opportunity to get the same work you would have without that paper. But let's just say you've got favor and you land that job. Congratulations! And now since that job, not you, has such a substantial profit margin for that company, they're going to calculate the bare minimum that they can afford to give you in exchange for the work you're doing. Putting all that aside, you suck it up. You work 50 to 100-hour work weeks. That's the spirit. Being away from home 50 to 75% of the time. Or having to relocate wherever the job needs you. Wait a minute, this kind of sounds like the military. And all this goes on for the next 30 to 40 years. Of course, as long as they keep making that bi-weekly deposit into your account, right? Yeah. Now, if you're getting the picture I'm painting, you can tell how this all feeds into a feeling of unworthiness. You're just getting what the big hand is chipping down to you. And of course, during this time, all those things on your checklist of wants doesn't get any smaller. It probably grew a couple notches. And here comes the final blow, credit. All those wonderful desires can be satisfied right now with zero money down and low payments for all qualified buyers with approved credit worthiness. This affording a life by financing it one check at a time is a dynamic experience by a vast majority of society. And I'm not just talking about those $30,000 millionaires. I'm talking all the way up to doctors, lawyers, and anyone else. The more you make, the more the banks extend, the more you over-leverage yourself and your finances, setting you up to be a slave for your things. And of course, redlining finances you don't have in the first place only leads to more unworthiness, complete lack of wealth. And let's remember, I said this was the best scenario. Now, for all those out there who are ignorant or underprivileged, they're left to turn to the more obvious route of financial success: crime, drugs. Those who take this path put themselves at risk for a multitude of catastrophes. Law enforcement, safety among their peers, no honor amongst thieves, right? But hey, it does have a much more lucrative and faster payout. Go ahead and check out How to Make Money Selling Drugs in America. It's an interesting watch. And of course, down this path, you do get a retirement plan. It usually comes with a sentence, maybe probation, which of course is more restrictions against freedom, or just a flat-out early cancellation of your life policy. And at the same time, let's not forget, you're now the black sheep. You're shunned, unable to openly share every aspect of your life with those you care about. The very society that you became immorally corrupt to succeed in now sees you as that member of the family. Now that we've looked at all the problems associated with poverty conscious, let's go ahead and shift, go in a better direction. Let's look at the solution: prosperity conscious. In my eyes, personally, this is what we were put here to be: prosperous, abundant, multiplying, fruitful. Money in and of itself is neither good or bad, evil or righteous. It's not buried deep like sunken treasure, and it's not just raining from the sky. Money is a tool used in exchange for resources, goods, and services. While poverty consciousness is the belief of lack, limit, and restriction in regards to money matters, prosperity consciousness is correspondingly the exact opposite. This evolves from the thought of there being more than enough. When your money mindset expands and you start asking the right questions, this is when you can begin to learn things of how money can be used to make more money. Not to be confused with the old adage that it takes money to make money. This philosophy is where you start to educate yourself on assets versus liabilities, passive income, and even the power of duplication, investing, and of course, business model. And the core of any business model is just duplication. Every big company is fundamentally based in one simple fact: take any process that yields a good or service to others, trim it down to its most efficient, simple, easy to understand, and teach that core. You got duplication. Assets and liabilities are the basic aspects to wealth building, but they're on two separate ends of the same double-edged sword. Liabilities are more like expenses, things that do not generate income and require income, whereas assets obviously will generate income passively without your direct effort. For example, most people know your vehicle. You could argue this is a great asset. It gets you from point A to point B, allows transportation. It's how most people are going to use to commute to a job and earn income, right? Wrong. The basis of a liability, however, is that it has no return value as far as income. So, when you buy a car, they say it depreciates as soon as you drive it off the lot. Take it for a quick spin, come right back to resell it, they're going to give you less money than you gave them. Promise. We can even take a look at your house. I'm sure you've probably heard somewhere that this is your best asset. Well, my friend, I'm sorry, but those days are far gone. Don't get me wrong. Real estate, when properly educated and executing a profitable strategy, real estate can be very lucrative and beneficial. However, there are so many variables involved, such as the economy, interest rates, lending habits, and the overall consciousness of your renters, occupants, management companies. There are a lot of factors involved that can make it less profitable than you think. But we'll remove the investing side just to address your own personal home. What people commonly would believe is that because it holds value, equity, in a property, that is an asset. Now, this is partly true and partly false. Remember, double-edged sword. So, how is it true? If I have a house that I live in worth $100,000, it can be considered an asset if I have equity. Now that is perceived as generated income. You can take out a home equity line of credit. Hear that credit part? Yeah, not really an asset. But it can get you quick liquid cash when needed. However, that is a form of lending. Example 2, say that same $50,000 in equity turns to $70,000 as the property value rises and you're ready to sell that property. So I put in $50,000 and took back $70,000. $20,000 profit. Ding, ding, ding. Profit. So correct. In that instance, it would indeed be an asset, something that generated income for you passively without your effort. However, conversely, and obviously in the market today as of 2008 and beyond, as the housing market crashed, that home that's now worth $60,000 leaves me with only $10,000 in equity from my cash I put in. That's a $40,000 loss. Seems pretty clear to me that your home can also be a liability. Now let's take a final example of how a home can be considered an asset, but yet still you need to be aware of all factors involved. Say I've got a $100,000 property, $100,000 down, purchase in cash, deed in hand. This is my property. That's an asset, holding a value of $100,000. Now, it's still subject to the same market values. So if it drops down to $60,000, I have lost cash, but I still have $60,000. It's still considered an asset. The value raises, it's $120,000. I've now got a value of $120,000 with a $20,000 profit. It's still an asset. The only thing I will say is to keep in mind, say you're gifted a property. If you're not ready to sell it and you're not successfully renting it, this is more of the investing strategy. That property does still cost you money out of pocket. Minimal expenses, taxes, being a landlord, of course. And if you live in the property, utilities. But those are minimal in comparison to the overall value of the property. So in that sense, I'd still consider it as an investor an asset. Now, as we wrap things up, I'm not going to give you some fairy tale example of a fortune falling into your lap as you're an heir to a long-lost family member. But let's take a moment and wander down the rabbit hole a bit. Let's really reflect on how your thoughts are going to reflect your actions and shape the world that you interact with. Now let's say that the thoughts we discussed here lead you to go forward, educate yourself, find as much information as you can, and change the way you pursue life and money. Those thoughts and ideals are going to be passed down to your children. Not to say that it's going to be flowers and roses for anything and everything, but instead that the rainiest day that could come across is merely a chance to brainstorm and figure out how something can be achieved or a solution can be found, because you know that there is possibility. Instead of shutting off possibility and going off to the slave ship so you can pay rent every day, you teach them to dream, imagine, find ways to create, and then envision what they can do to make it happen. I mean, really take a moment to imagine. If all the daddy's little girls out there were told that they needed to research how they could house, care for, and profit from that little pony, instead of simply being told that they couldn't afford it and to get over it. Or what if Junior, who asked for that next big toy, instead of being told that daddy doesn't have the money, was instead told, if you put together a plan, a business model, where you can take that toy, that bike, some candy, and set up a local neighborhood business maybe to sell amongst the neighborhood, teach them how to start generating profits, what would the future hold? If we were all groomed to be entrepreneurs, ready to go serve society for capital gains, freedom, financially and time-wise, the potential is exponentially expanded at that point. So ask yourself, what type of consciousness are you feeding into? Are you possibly raising your kids that are ready for jobs, just over broke syndrome, giving them cash in exchange for chores, which actually is just a childish equation for time for dollars? Whereas that same cash can be considered as payment for contribution to the household society. And of course, those funds can be used to fund an investment, a business, some type of profit generating asset. You see, that shift is so subtle, but so drastic at the same time. It leads you to the question, how early can we start? And how much of the standard or public education system is actually feeding into productive members of society? Make no mistake, these are in no way overnight fixes. They don't give any quantum leap delivery to riches and success. But these principles are things that need to be learned, understood, implemented, so that the future brings change. Let's not forget that the workforce does serve its purpose. There's plenty of work out there that has to be done for the benefits of society. And some people it's a perfect fit for. But it shouldn't be the very enslavement of modern society, as much as it should fit the desires of those few who choose it, at the same time serve as a vehicle that can be used to deliver wealth creation. With that, I leave you with one final question. How hard are you working for your money? Maybe it's time you gave your money a job and let it start working for you, and let it stop being such a burden in your life. Until next time, as always, thank you for tuning in, joining in on the conversation. I look forward to your input and further discussion. You always want to make sure to subscribe. Go ahead and like, share it, tell anybody and everybody. It's Dwayne Langham signing off. Peace.